Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are opening up a set of documents that, well, for years were basically hidden from the public.
Hmm.
It's the story of some really serious systemic failures in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and it all centers on a local realtor named Justin Holder and just a disturbing pattern of harassment allegations from three different women.
And the key thing to understand right from the start is that these documents were incredibly hard to get.
Right, their voices were essentially silenced for a long time.
Exactly. I mean, when lawyers tried to subpoena the reports, they were just given, like, redacted cover pages. Nothing more.
So just the top sheet.
Just the top sheet. Even the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, was initially denied the full notes.
Wow.
The whole story, the complete record,
Mhm.
it only came out because of a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request.
And that's what we're diving into. These files, they show harassment, impersonation, intimidation.
And a system that just failed to protect the victims.
Yeah.
It's a look at the gap between knowing something is true and actually being able to prove it in a court of law.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think we should start with the first case, Individual 1, because her story really sets the stage for the kind of digital deception we're talking about.
Yeah, her case starts back in 2018.
She was recovering from breast surgery, a very vulnerable time, and she starts getting these really bizarre text messages.
And the nature of these texts is so psychologically calculated. I mean,
Yeah.
the sender pretended to be from a medical office,
Unbelievable.
asking these deeply personal, invasive questions about her surgery, her recovery, at one point even asking for before and after photos.
That's not just harassment. That's a complete violation, using her medical condition against her.
It's an abuse of trust. And it escalated. By August 2020, the messages started to sound more professional, like legitimate business follow-ups.
Making them harder to just dismiss as some random creep,
Exactly. So she finally files a report on March 16th, 2021.
and that gets logged.
It does. Officer Ethan Sheenfield logged it under a very specific Tennessee statute, 3917-308B. That's for phone harassment, but, and this is important, the initial description notes, no threats.
So it's already being classified at a lower level of severity.
Right. And from there, the case goes to Detective Will Pinson in the Criminal Investigations Division.
And this is where the digital trail starts to get really clear.
Crystal clear. Pinson issues subpoenas, and the data leads directly to two Google accounts, Justin Holder Realtor at gmail.com and Justin at justinholder.com,
So a direct link, a digital fingerprint.
without a doubt. And the evidence was strong enough that Judge Atwood signed search warrants. The assistant DA, Sheila Freeze, even advised that, yeah, they could prosecute Holder under the criminal impersonation statute.
Okay, so they have the emails, they have the warrants, they have legal advice to go forward. Where did the whole thing fall apart? What was the roadblock?
The wall they hit was procedural. It was all about the IP address trace. Pinson managed to trace the IP address for some of the activity back to a big, well-known title company office right there in Murfreesboro.
Which sounds damning.
It sounds like a smoking gun. But here's the loophole. Holder didn't actually work there. He was a realtor. He was in and out of that office all the time for closings, sometimes for hours. So he had access, but he wasn't an employee.
So they couldn't tie him to a desk at that specific time.
Precisely. And in a case like this, you have to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that he was the one using that Google Voice account at the exact moment those messages were sent.
A very high bar.
A very high bar. And by June 2021, Detective Pinson basically concluded, I can't prove it. He couldn't prove Holder was the one physically at that IP address at those times.
But the email accounts were his. I don't get it. Why wasn't that enough?
And that's the central question, right? In a lot of places, the account link is just step one. If the IP location is a public or even a semi-public place, like a busy office.
The defense can just argue anyone could have used the Wi-Fi.
Exactly. They can create that reasonable doubt. The investigation just stalled right there.
And the consequence for the victim for Individual 1 was just devastating.
It was. By March 2022, the statute of limitations on that charge expired.
So the door just closed?
Legally, yes.
Yeah.
Justice delayed until it was denied. It's a perfect example of the system failing.
And this is where that piece of unofficial evidence comes in that is just so infuriating.
The Facebook post.
Right. While the case is stalling, while Pinson is saying he can't prove Holder was there.
Holder himself posts a photo on his own Facebook page from his car.
Parked directly outside that exact same title company office.
And when they cross-reference the timestamp, that post was made within minutes of one of the harassing texts being sent.
It puts him at the scene of the digital crime, holding the device with the accounts on it.
It does, but it's circumstantial, right? It's not the kind of hard technical proof the prosecution felt they needed. It just shows this huge gap between what everyone could see was happening and what the system could officially prove.
So that's the first case. But the timeline is so compressed here. Just 2 days after individual 1 filed her report, another woman walks into the sheriff's office.
Right, individual 2. And this immediately starts to look like a pattern, not an isolated incident.
And this case is different. It's more serious.
Much more serious. Deputy Sarah Blair took the report, and the offenses were different. We're talking harassment with a nonverbal threat, and harassment with a verbal threat, and intimidation.
So we've moved from impersonation to direct threats.
We have. And what's really telling is what's noted in the report itself. It explicitly mentions indicators of domestic violence.
Like what?
Verbal threats, a clear pattern of intimidation, and a history of unwanted contact. This wasn't just, some online trolling.
This was about control.
Deeply rooted control and psychological manipulation. And despite how serious this was and how it corroborated the first complaint, that case file today is still marked not cleared.
So 2 cases. An escalating pattern from impersonation to intimidation, and still no prosecution.
Still nothing.
Which brings us to the third woman, individual 3. Her experience shows another layer to the harassment, a different kind of psychological game.
Yeah, her case was really strange. She got text messages that were written about her, but in the third person.
What do you mean?
It was like the sender was talking to someone else about her life, her habits, but was sending the text directly to her.
Wow. So it's designed to make her feel like she's being watched and discussed behind her back.
Exactly. To create this intense paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
Who's watching me? Who are they talking to? It's an incredibly manipulative tactic.
And the connection.
Detective Pinson confirmed it. These messages also came from the very same Google Voice account linked to Holder's emails.
So it's all one person, one actor, using different methods for different victims.
It proves it. It confirms this wasn't random. It was one person with a consistent, calculated playbook of abuse. We see medical impersonation, direct intimidation, and this third-person psychological warfare.
All documented in the official report.
Overwhelmingly documented.
And look, the thing is, these reports only cover a few years. When you dig deeper, you find this isn't new. The history of harassment, of what people describe as narcissistic abuse tied to Justin Holder, it goes back more than 2 decades.
That history is so important.
Yeah.
Because it shows this wasn't a first-time offender the system was dealing with. This is a long-established pattern of behavior that, for years, the system just failed to stop.
Which is probably why we're finally seeing this push for accountability this year. It started back in May, right? With a public exposure campaign.
It did. It was launched by victims and other concerned citizens who felt the legal system had failed them. Their goal wasn't just justice. It was, to protect the public, to stop more people from getting hurt.
It became a defense mechanism when the official channels weren't working.
Pretty much. And that public pressure seems to line up with the biggest legal development we've seen yet.
The TBI raid.
A huge step. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation finally took aggressive action. Sources confirm they raided Holder's home.
And they weren't just looking for evidence of harassment.
No. They were reportedly searching for evidence of child pornography and other very serious criminal activity. It suggests the scope of this is much, much wider than what's in these initial harassment files.
So an indictment seems likely now?
It seems imminent.
Yeah.
And it may finally bring the accountability that those first investigations in Murfreesboro couldn't deliver.
And you can see the real-world consequences of this all coming to light. The documents note he's really struggling now professionally. Can't hold down a job in the real estate world.
And that's the core conflict these files show, right?
Yeah.
On one side, you had all this internal knowledge.
Yeah.
Detective Pinson knew it was Holder's emails. Judge Atwood signed the warrants. The DA's office said they could prosecute. The system knew.
But it was blocked.
Blocked by these systemic barriers. The IP address technicality, the bureaucracy, the clock running out on a statute of limitations, it all just buried the truth and let the abuse continue for years.
So when you look at all this material, what does it mean? We've laid out 3 very clear, very sophisticated patterns of abuse here. Impersonation, intimidation, psychological games. The system demands this perfect, irrefutable legal proof. But with digital crime, an offender can exploit loopholes like a shared Wi-Fi network. And that proof just it evaporates because of a technicality.
And we saw that clear example, that Facebook post, where the public information put him at the scene of the crime, but it just wasn't enough to get past that lack of proof conclusion.
So we want to leave you with this thought. When you have decades of abuse, multiple victims, all pointing to one person, but the official proof gets stuck, how much weight should that other stuff have?
Yeah, that compelling circumstantial evidence, how much should it really count in an investigation?
And what does it say about trust in our institutions when it takes a public exposure campaign to finally get the wheels of justice to even start turning? It makes you really consider what justice looks like when the full picture is only revealed one FOIA request at a time. Thanks for diving deep with us.